These comments are coming from the video we did on Emmett Till, which y'all been showing mad love over the last few days. I appreciate it. This one is about his dad. I want to bring it back up because we never hear this part of the story or how it is connected to Emmett's. We touched on it a bit in previous videos, but here is the full story. The October 10th, 1955 edition of Life magazine, a tribute to the life of Emmett Till, graced the pages. Also printed in the magazine are small details about Emmett's father, Louis Till. The passage reads, in part, quote, "His soldier father, who was killed in France, fighting for the American proposition that all men are created equal," end quote. Mississippi Senator James Oliver Eastland didn't like that Emmett's father was painted as a war hero. See, Eastland himself was a segregationist, wealthy plantation owner, and had successfully led a campaign to block an anti-lynching bill which would have held members of lynch mobs and police officers accountable for their role in lynchings. Eastland served as U.S. Senator for Mississippi from 1942 to 1978, built his political career on promoting white supremacy, defending racial segregation, and blocking civil rights bills. So it was no surprise that he leaked information about Louis Till that would stop the kidnapping charges facing J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant, Mamie's only hope for getting some charges against the men who murdered her son. Mamie Elizabeth Carthen and Louis Till were married on October 14, 1940. A year later, on July 25, 1941, their first and only son was born. Mamie named him Emmett after her favorite uncle and Louis after his father. But their marriage was a struggle. Okay, Louis was abusive and he kept violating his restraining order. Eventually, Louis was given an ultimatum by the judge: go to prison or join the army. Louis chose the army and became a soldier in World War II. It seemed to help, as after that he sent Mamie money from his military pay and from his boxing and gambling to provide for her and their son. He did this consistently until one day the money stopped coming. On July 2nd, 1945, 3 weeks before Emmett's 4th birthday, Louis was lynched by the U.S. Army. A week later, on July 13th, Mamie was notified of her husband's death and sent his belongings in the mail. Among them was a silver ring with the date of purchase and Louis Till's initials, LT. On August 31st, 1955, when they pulled Emmett's body out of the Tallahatchie River, he was still wearing his father's ring, which was the only way his great-uncle Mose Wright could positively identify that this was his body. After an all-white jury of 12 men found Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam not guilty of the murder of Emmett Till on September 23, 1955, after just 67 minutes of deliberation, federal officials pressured the state of Mississippi to at least convict them on kidnapping. They admitted to kidnapping him. It had been known and proven that they forcibly abducted Emmett from his great-uncle Mose Wright's home. However, 2 weeks before a Mississippi grand jury was scheduled to convene and decide whether Bryant and Milam should be tried for kidnapping, Senator James Eastland leaked information from the War Department that Louis Till died in Italy, not France, and that he was hanged for allegedly raping 2 Italian women and murdering another one. Louis' confidential file mentioned he had done this with another soldier, Fred A. McMurray, and they were both hanged on the same day. Reports circulated that Louis was not a brave soldier in the Army, but a murderer and a rapist, although his friends in the Army said otherwise. Not only that, but John Edgar Whiteman acquired the official file with transcripts from the confidential military file. In it, he notes that at the trial of Louis Till and Fred McMurray, each individual rape victim admitted that darkness, hoods, masks, shock, and confusion made it impossible to identify the men who attacked them. Seated across the court-martial chamber from Till and McMurray, no victim could identify or accuse either man. Private Till was found guilty, but that doesn't mean that he was guilty. In 100 Years of Lynching, the author compiles newspaper articles that show that majority of lynchings during these years were of black men accused of raping white women. Whiteman goes on to say the fact that Till, McMurray, and the other alleged perpetrators were black, plus the fact that Till and McMurray were reported in the vicinity the night the crimes occurred, was enough to convince Army officers the accused are guilty. Privates Till and McMurray were sentenced to death on the basis of being the wrong color in the wrong place at the wrong time, just like his son.